You know that feeling, right? You're sitting in a lovely little bistro. Maybe it's on a cobblestone street in Paris, or a trendy spot in Berlin, or a cozy corner in London. The lighting is just dim enough to feel expensive, the napkins are heavy linen, and the air smells like garlic butter and red wine. You open the menu, and boom, there it is. A dry-aged Côte de Boeuf for two at the very top for 120 euros. You look at that number and think, whoa, okay, that's insane. Who actually orders that? Your hand instinctively drifts down to something sensible, and you find a truffle linguine for 28 euros. And in that split second, something clicks in your brain. Well, 28 euros isn't 120 euros. That's actually quite reasonable for a place like this. You place your order feeling like a genius, like a rational human being who just saved a fortune. But here's the irony. To be honest, the restaurant just played you, and they did it before the waiter even reached your table. My name is Captain Capital, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, human psychology, and why some people seem to navigate their finances with total ease, while others are constantly stressed about their bank balance. See, I've spent years watching how our minds, this incredibly complex biological computer we carry around, glitch out in the simplest situations. And the world of restaurants, it's probably the biggest playground for those glitches. We think a menu is just a list of food and prices, like a helpful little information sheet. But actually, it's a high-tech psychological weapon engineered by menu consultants to make your wallet open wider than you ever intended. Today, I want to take you behind the curtain. We aren't going to talk about the quality of the steak or the freshness of the vegetables. No, we're looking into the minds of the people who design these lists. We're going to break down how one extra item can trick you into picking the most expensive dish, why the absence of a euro sign makes you lose your inhibitions, and how Grandma's secret recipe sells you a basic potato for 3 times its value. This is a deep dive into what I call the deception effect. By the end of this conversation, I promise you'll never look at a menu the same way again. This isn't just about not overpaying for dinner. It's about reclaiming control over your own decisions in a world that's trying its hardest to make them for you. So, you ready to see how deep the rabbit hole goes? The shadow of the giant, the art of anchoring. Let's start with that 120 euro steak I mentioned. In the world of menu design, that's called an anchor. And here's the funny part. The restaurant mostly doesn't care if you order it. In fact, they might even hope you don't, because its real job isn't to be eaten, it's just to exist on the page. To be fair, this is a classic cognitive pattern. Our brains are terrible at judging the value of things in a vacuum. We don't actually know how much pasta should cost. 10 euros? 40 euros? We don't have a built-in calculator for the price of flour and eggs. So we look for context, and the anchor is the context they feed us. When you see that first wildly expensive dish, it sets a ceiling. Everything that follows feels like a bargain by comparison. I once spoke to a cafe owner in London, and he admitted, the moment I put a 100-pound bottle of vintage wine on the list, sales of the 45-pound bottle tripled. People don't want to look like cheapskates by ordering the lowest price, but they don't want to be crazy by buying the highest. Restaurants know this. They nudge you exactly where they want you, to the second most expensive item. It's called the sweet spot, but in reality, it's a carefully constructed trap. Why does this matter to you? Because anchoring is everywhere. When you're buying a car, picking an apartment, or even negotiating your salary. If you realize that the first number you hear is just a psychological anchor, you can unhook yourself. Next time you see a crazy price at the top of a menu, just tell yourself, "Oh, hello there, anchor. I see you." That tiny bit of awareness instantly brings back your clarity. You start judging the food based on what it's worth to you, not how it compares to an artificially created giant. The magic of disappearing symbols, when money isn't money. Have you ever noticed that in trendy spots in East London or posh bistros in Milan, the menus often don't have currency symbols. There's no euro, no pound, no euro. It just says grilled sea bass, 32. Just the number. You might think it's a design choice, minimalism, less is more. But to be honest, there's some hard science behind it. Cornell University did a study that showed people spend significantly more when the currency sign is removed. Why? Because our brain is a bit of a lazy slacker. The currency symbol is a trigger. It reminds us of the pain of paying. The second we see a money sign, the part of our brain associated with processing negative emotions lights up. We remember how hard we worked for those numbers. We remember the rent, the bills, the car payment. We become cautious. But when the numbers stand alone, 32, what is that? The temperature in the kitchen? The street number? Of course, we know it's the price. No, the psychological link to our bank account becomes thinner. It's like playing a game. We're ordering units, not spending money. Restaurants create an environment where finance is secondary, something that shouldn't get in the way of you enjoying the moment. And you know what? It works brilliantly. My advice here is simple, even if it sounds a bit boring. When you see a menu without symbols, mentally put them back in. Don't read Burrata 18, read Burrata 18 of my hard-earned euros. It brings you back to reality. It's a cold shower for your inner spender. Because at the end of the night, when the bill arrives, that euro sign will be there, and it won't be a game anymore.
Adjectives worth millions. The power of storytelling. Let's try a little experiment. Which sounds better, fried chicken and rice or slow-roasted, corn-fed heritage poultry on a bed of fragrant jasmine rice with hints of Provençal herbs? Yeah, the answer's obvious, even though, to be honest, it's probably the exact same thing on the plate. Restaurants are masters of storytelling. They don't sell calories, they sell imagery. When we read a long, flowery description, our brain starts pre-tasting the food before it even hits our tongue. Research shows that dishes with descriptive names sell 27% better, and get this, people actually rate them as tasting better. We are literally eating our own expectations. Words that trigger nostalgia or specify the origin work particularly well. Grandma's tart, hand-picked forest mushrooms, artisan cheese from a small farm in Tuscany. It gives us a sense of authenticity. We feel like if it's from the farm, it has more love and fewer preservatives. Even though, grandma in this case is probably a giant industrial vat in a food processing plant. I fell for this once in Brussels. I ordered hand-dived scallops with a whisper of sea salt. As I was eating them, I was imagining this brave diver in the cold Atlantic, and then I saw a bag of frozen, mass-produced scallops being delivered to the kitchen door. Was I annoyed? A little, but it was a great lesson. How do you fight this? Try translating the menu into fact language. Read the description and strip away every single adjective. What's left? Chicken, rice, mushrooms, potatoes. This helps you see through the marketing fluff and decide if you're really willing to pay an extra 8 euros for hints of Provençal herbs that are probably just dried parsley from a jar.
The golden triangle, where your eyes land. Have you ever wondered why certain dishes are in certain places on the page? It's not chaos, it's engineering. There's a concept called the golden triangle. When we open a menu, our eyes move in a very predictable pattern. First to the middle, then to the top right, then to the top left. Restaurants place their highest margin items exactly in these spots. Not necessarily the most expensive ones, but the ones where the restaurant makes the most profit. Pasta, for example, is a gold mine. The cost of flour and water is pennies, but they can sell it for the price of a decent steak. So you'll often find the pasta dish sitting pretty in the center of the page, maybe inside a nice little box or in a bold font. Menu engineers use visual cues to conduct your attention like an orchestra. Pictures, unless it's a high-end place where they use white space instead, borders, or chef's recommendations, these are all signs saying, "Look here." And we look, and we order. You know, I catch myself doing this all the time. I'll open a menu and see a dish in a box in the top right corner, and I just smile and think, I see what you're trying to do today, guys. My practical tip, start reading the menu from the very bottom, or from the corners that seem the least noticeable. Often that's where the most interesting and honestly priced items are hidden. The restaurant hopes you'll get decision fatigue before you find them. Don't give them that satisfaction. Be an explorer, not just a tourist in their world of prices.
The weight of reputation. The psychology of material. Now, let's talk about something we don't even think is part of the menu. The folder. The paper. Have you ever noticed that in high-end restaurants, the menu is often heavy, thick cardstock, leather binding, maybe even a wooden clipboard? This is a subconscious signal. Our brain associates physical weight with quality and importance. If the menu is heavy, the food must be serious, the chef must be a pro, and the prices must be justified. If they give you a laminated sheet that flops around, your subconscious whispers, "This is cheap, don't expect much." To be honest, it's one of the subtlest manipulations out there. We judge the taste of the food by the weight of the paper it's printed on. In one experiment, people were given the same wine, but half were told it came from a heavy, expensive-looking bottle, and the other half from a light, cheap one. Guess which one they said tasted more complex and sophisticated? It's the same with color. Warm colors like yellow, orange, and red stimulate appetite. Blue, on the other hand, suppresses it. There isn't much blue food in nature, so our brains are suspicious of it. Restaurants use this to prime you before you've even had a sip of water. My little observation, when you're handed a beautiful, tactile menu, just close your eyes for a second. Strip away the leather and the heavy paper. Imagine those same items printed on a flimsy A4 sheet in a greasy spoon cafe. Would you still pay 25 euros for that salad? If the answer is no, then you're paying for the paper, not the tomatoes.
Oh, the wine list. This is a whole different level of psychological warfare. Most of us aren't sommeliers. We know a couple of grapes, we know if we like white or red, and that's about it. And restaurants exploit that shamelessly. The hero of this story is the second cheapest wine. You know this phenomenon? Someone opens the wine list, sees the cheapest bottle for 20 euros, and thinks, well, I don't want to look like a total cheapskate. I'll order the next one up. And they order the 32 euro bottle. To be honest, for a restaurant, the second cheapest wine is the goose that lays the golden eggs. That's usually the one with the highest markup. Often, that wine costs the restaurant less than the cheapest one on the list. But, psychologically, it feels like the safe choice. You aren't the poorest person in the room, and you aren't overspending. Perfect. Except, not really. Another trick is describing wine with imagery we don't understand, but that sounds impressive. Tannins with a hint of old leather and wet forest floor. Who actually knows what wet forest floor tastes like? But it sounds so sophisticated that we assume it's worth the price. How do you avoid this? My advice, if you aren't an expert, just buy the cheapest wine. Seriously. In a good restaurant, even the cheapest wine will be perfectly decent. Don't worry about looking thrifty. Or if you want something special, ask the waiter for a wine that's not on the main list, but is a staff favorite. You'll often find gems with a much fairer price. And remember, you're there to drink wine, not to buy status in the eyes of a waiter you'll never see again.
The digital era. QR codes and dark patterns. In the last few years, especially across Europe, we've seen QR codes replacing physical menus. It seems like it's just about hygiene or efficiency. But actually, it opens a Pandora's box of new ways to make us spend. A digital menu allows a restaurant to change prices in real time. Is it Friday night? Boom! Prices go up by 10%. Is it raining outside and people are craving comfort food? The price of soup creeps up. It's called dynamic pricing, and in a digital world, it happens without us even noticing. Plus, on a smartphone, you usually only see bits of the menu at a time. You don't get the big picture. They show you recommendations, read highest profit dishes, right on the landing page. The process of ordering starts to feel like an Amazon checkout, and we already know how easy it is to click Add to Basket when we can't feel the weight of our wallet. And then there's the payment. Paying via an app or Apple Pay is the ultimate way to distance us from the reality of money. You just tap a button and the numbers vanish. The pain of paying is reduced to almost zero. What should you do in the age of the QR code? Be twice as vigilant. Don't be afraid to scroll to the very bottom, and always check the total in your basket before you hit pay. The digital interface is designed to make you feel like you're in a game, not spending your actual life's energy. Stay grounded in reality.
Atmosphere as a seasoning, music, light, and scent. We've been talking about the menu, but the menu doesn't exist in a vacuum. It works in tandem with the atmosphere. Have you ever noticed the music in high-end European spots? It's usually slow jazz or classical. Research shows that under slow classical music, people eat slower and order more wine and desserts. We relax. We feel like we're in a safe, high-status environment. We lose track of time. And the longer you sit at that table, the more likely you are to order that second coffee or a digestif. And the scent? Many restaurants use scent diffusers. The smell of fresh bread or vanilla makes us feel hungry, even if we just had a big lunch. It goes straight to our reptilian brain, which ignores every logical argument our bank account tries to make. I once walked into a bakery in Copenhagen where the smell of cinnamon was so divine, I bought a giant pastry, even though I'd only gone in to ask for directions. It was pure instinct. Practical takeaway? Be aware of the external pressure. If the music is too relaxing or the smell is too enticing, that's your signal to check in with yourself. Ask, do I actually want this dessert, or is the jazz and the vanilla scent deciding for me? Sometimes just knowing they're trying to manipulate your senses breaks the spell.
So, there we have it. We've taken this complex machine apart, piece by piece. From anchoring and the disappearing euro signs to the psychology of paperweight and the magic of adjectives. It might feel like going out for dinner is a bit of a minefield where a marketing genius is hiding behind every corner, waiting to empty your pockets. But you know what? That's no reason to stop enjoying a meal out. Life is too short not to have a lovely evening with friends. The whole point of this long chat isn't to scare you, it's to give you power. Knowledge is power. When you understand how the deception effect works, you stop being a victim. You become a player who knows the rules. You can enjoy the storytelling in the descriptions, but you'll know exactly what you're paying for. You can appreciate the design of a menu without letting the golden triangle dictate your dinner. To be honest, financial awareness isn't about being a miser. It's about making sure your money goes toward things that actually bring you joy, rather than things forced on you by psychological triggers. Next time you open a menu, take a deep breath, smile at the waiter, and remember, you are the main character in this story. Not the menu, not the chef, and not the marketing strategy. Your freedom of choice is what's truly priceless. I hope this helps you feel a bit more confident and in control, because true capital isn't just the balance in your bank account, it's the clarity of mind that allows you to manage it. I'm Captain Capital. Take care of your money, take care of your mind, and most importantly, enjoy your life consciously.
The world is full of temptations, but now you have the map to the maze. Cheers to your next dinner out.